He chose my cousin over me, but fate made me his boss's wife. My name is Ariana Grace, and the story you're about to hear isn't just betrayal. It's the kind of heartbreak that shatters your bones, steals your sleep, and forces you to rebuild your soul from dust. My fiancé of 2 years left me for my younger cousin. She got pregnant. He married her. And they both laughed like I was the fool. But life has a strange way of folding the pages. Because the same man who called off our wedding, the same cousin who destroyed my family, ended up kneeling before me, begging for my help, while I stood beside the billionaire CEO who became my husband. This is not a petty revenge story. This is poetic justice at its finest. Before I continue, please subscribe to my channel to see more interesting stories. Thank you. Now let me take you to where it all began. I always thought betrayals came with warning signs, whispers, instincts, shadows. But mine came wrapped in a phone call I never should have answered. It was a cold Tuesday morning in Manhattan. I had just finished choosing floral arrangements for the wedding that would never happen. My mother's voice trembled as she told me to come home immediately. There's something you need to see, Ariana, and you won't like it. I drove to Brooklyn with shaking hands. When I walked into my parents' living room, my younger cousin Melanie sat on the couch crying, her belly showing a small but undeniable bump. And next to her stood Evan, my fiancé of 2 years, the man I had defended, loved, and built my future around. He couldn't even look me in the eyes. "I'm sorry, Ari," he whispered. I messed up. Mel is pregnant. I have to do the right thing." Those words were a knife to my reality. Melanie wouldn't stop crying. Evan wouldn't stop shaking. And I couldn't breathe. 2 years of my life evaporated. 2 years of trust, loyalty, and dreams. Gone. And the worst part? They expected me to accept it quietly. But life had other plans. And destiny wasn't done with any of us. The next blow came 3 days later. I was in my apartment packing Evan's belongings into boxes when my phone buzzed with a message from Melanie. "Please understand. Grandma says we should make it official quickly. The wedding is in 6 weeks." 6 weeks. My cousin. The girl I helped with her college applications, the one who slept in my bed when she was scared, was marrying the man who had promised me forever. I sank to the floor of my bedroom, surrounded by the scent of Evan's cologne still lingering on his shirts. My stomach twisted. I felt humiliation, rage, but mostly emptiness. My mother visited that evening. She brought soup, the kind she made when I was sick. Instead, I was poisoned by betrayal. "Ariana," she said gently, "you are worth more than what they did to you. Much more." But my chest tightened because worth didn't ease the pain. Worth didn't erase the wedding invitation I received the next morning. A cream envelope with gold lettering. "You are invited to celebrate the union of Melanie Carter and Evan Brooks." They actually sent it. That was the moment something inside me cracked, not in defeat, but in awakening. Because pain, when pushed far enough, transforms into power. And my transformation had just begun. I needed distance, space, air that didn't hold their shadows. So, I transferred with my marketing firm to the Atlanta branch. I left New York behind like a city that had burned me. Atlanta welcomed me with warm breezes, peach sunsets, and silence, the kind I had forgotten existed. But healing wasn't linear. Some nights, I cried until morning. Some mornings I woke up furious. But I kept going. One afternoon, while working on a proposal at a rooftop cafe in Midtown, a man approached me. Tall, calm, refined, the kind of presence that changes the room without trying. "Is this seat taken?" he asked. I shook my head, barely glancing at him. But when he sat down, I noticed something familiar about his posture. Confidence mixed with kindness. He saw the company files on my laptop and smiled. "I know that logo well," he said. "I own the parent company." I froze. This was Adrian Cole, the billionaire CEO whose name dominated business magazines. The man who owned multiple companies, including the exact tech firm where Evan had just applied for a senior role after quitting his old job. But I didn't know any of that yet. All I knew was that a stranger with gentle eyes had just interrupted my solitude. And destiny has a wicked sense of timing. Adrian Cole was nothing like the men the media painted him to be. In person, he was surprisingly attentive, almost disarmingly so. He asked me what book I was reading, what project I was working on, why my eyes looked like they had forgotten how to smile. I didn't tell him everything.
Not yet.
Just that I had left a difficult engagement. He nodded with an understanding far deeper than casual conversation. Sometimes life breaks us open, he said, so better things can find space. We met again. And again. Coffee turned into dinners. Dinners turned into sunsets at Centennial Park. And slowly, painfully slowly, my heart began to thaw. One evening he finally asked, "Ariana, what happened to you?" Under the soft Atlanta lights, I told him everything. The betrayal, the wedding, the humiliation. He didn't interrupt. He didn't pity me. He simply held my gaze like my pain was something he respected, not something that defined me. Weeks passed, and he made my life feel like it was healing in real time. The world seemed softer with him in it. But fate was not done weaving the threads of this story. Because while I was finding love, my past was spiraling toward me. And it came with consequences. I didn't go to the wedding, but photos traveled faster than grief. A mutual friend accidentally posted a picture. Melanie in a white lace dress, her belly carefully hidden. Evan smiling like he hadn't destroyed 2 lives in the process. I stared at the image until my chest went numb. Adrian found me sitting in my living room, the lights off, tears running down my face. Without asking, he sat beside me. "I saw the pictures," he whispered. "I feel stupid," I said. "Like I wasted 2 years." "No," he replied gently. "You invested your heart in someone unworthy of it. That's not stupidity. That's courage." Then, for the first time, he pulled me close and I didn't pull away. That night, I realized something. My story wasn't about them anymore. But destiny wasn't done sharpening its edges. Because 2 months later, long after the wedding cake was cut, long after their honeymoon ended, long after I had begun to rebuild, a storm was coming. And its first warning was an email to my inbox. From Evan. The subject line froze my breath. "Ari, I need your help." For a moment I thought it was a prank. But as I opened the email, the past clawed its way back into my present. Evan wrote, "Ariana, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but things are complicated at my new job. The CEO of the parent company is reviewing a promotion I desperately need. Without it, Mel and Io were struggling. If you could speak on my behalf, they listen to people like you. Please." He didn't know. He had absolutely no idea. He didn't know that the CEO he was begging me to influence was the man I was slowly falling for. He didn't know that the Ariana he spoke to like a last resort now had access to the highest office in the building he depended on for survival. He didn't know that fate had handed me a justice I hadn't even asked for. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, but shock. That same night, Adrian invited me to an awards gala in downtown Atlanta. But I walked in distracted, Evan's words echoing in my head. While photographers snapped photos and lights flashed like stars, I understood something profound. I wasn't powerless anymore. I wasn't heartbroken. I was rising. And the people who hurt me were beginning to fall. The ballroom at the Four Seasons glittered like a world I never imagined I would belong to. Diamonds, velvet gowns, chandeliers the size of small planets. But none of that dazzled me as much as the moment Adrian took my hand and introduced me as someone very important to me. My heart stuttered. Throughout the night, CEOs, investors, and executives approached him with admiration. Many recognized me from the proposal I had spearheaded at the Atlanta office. A project that had quietly increased their market engagement by 18%. I was no longer the betrayed fiancé. I was a woman rebuilding her destiny. During dinner, I finally told Adrian about the email. I expected him to be angry on my behalf. Instead, he leaned back, thoughtfully. "So," he said, Your ex works in one of my companies, and he needs upward approval from my office? I nodded. And he asked you to help him, not knowing your connection to me? Another nod. Adrian exhaled slowly. Life has a remarkable sense of poetry, he murmured. Then he reached for my hand, lacing his fingers with mine. We'll handle this carefully. Not out of revenge, but out of justice. His calmness steadied me, because that was the moment I realized. This wasn't petty revenge. This was alignment. Fate putting every player exactly where they needed to be. One warm Saturday morning, Adrian invited me to brunch at a quiet botanical garden cafe. The air smelled like lavender and cinnamon pastries. We sat under a pergola draped in roses. He looked unusually nervous. Ariana, he began, I've been thinking a lot about us. My heart raced. Was this happening too fast? But then he reached into his jacket and pulled out paperwork. I blinked. Not a ring. A contract. I want you to consider becoming part of a major division I'm launching. You have ideas, insight, emotional intelligence. You've survived hell and still walk with grace. That's leadership. My breath left me in a rush. A new division? I whispered. He nodded. A corporate social impact arm. You'd be its director.
Director. Me.
Not because of pity,
Not because of my past.
but because he saw who I had become. I tried to speak, but tears pushed forward before words. He reached across the table, wiping a tear with his thumb. You don't owe your past anything, he said softly. But your future? It's waiting for you. And just like that, I felt it, the shift. The moment a broken heart transforms into a powerful one. Little did I know, accepting this role would place me directly above the man who once left me for my cousin. And the story was only beginning to unfold. The universe works quietly but precisely. Just 1 month into my new role, whispers reached me, whispers from New York, from Brooklyn, from the messy life Evan had chosen. Melanie and Evan's marriage was fracturing. A cousin of mine called late one night, her voice tinged with gossip and sympathy. Ari, you didn't hear this from me, but Melanie has been complaining nonstop. Evan barely helps at home. His job pays less than he expected. And she hesitated. She said he's not the man she thought he'd be. I nearly laughed. Not out of spite, but out of disbelief. Because the cracks they tried to hide were becoming fault lines. Apparently, Evan's company had initiated strict evaluations. His department was underperforming. He was at risk of being let go. And Melanie, she blamed everyone but herself. She said you're living a luxurious life now, my cousin added. She's jealous, Ari. Really jealous. Life has a wicked sense of humor. The girl who stole my future now envied the future I rebuilt without her. But the real twist came the next morning. My assistant walked in holding a printed memo. Ma'am, he said, your approval is required for the leadership restructuring in the software division.
My eyes scanned the list.
There, at the very bottom, was Evan Brooks. His entire career rested on a signature he didn't know belonged to me. The game was shifting. 3 days later, my office received a meeting request from Evan. He had no idea who the new director was, the one whose approval could shape his future. He just knew he needed help. His email was desperate. Please, I'm asking for a chance to explain myself. I'm under review, and my supervisor said the final decision rests with you. I'm begging for an in-person meeting. I sat back in my leather chair, overlooking downtown Atlanta. The city lights flickered like tiny stars witnessing my transformation. Adrian entered my office just then, catching the look on my face. Another message from him? He asked. I nodded. Do you want me to block him? I shook my head.
No.
I want to hear what he has to say. His eyes softened, filled with admiration and respect. You're stronger than anyone I know, he whispered. I scheduled the meeting. Not in anger. Not in revenge. But because closure sometimes requires confrontation. The date was set.
Monday.
10 a.m. Conference room 14B. I imagined his expression when he walked in and saw me sitting at the head of the table. The woman he discarded, now holding the keys to his professional survival. But the story wasn't about humiliation. It was about revelation. And Monday morning would deliver exactly that. Monday arrived with a sky heavy like it knew a storm of truth was coming. At 10 a.m. sharp, the door to conference room 14B opened. Evan stepped inside wearing a wrinkled suit and a look of desperation. He didn't even raise his eyes at first. "I'm here to see the director," he began. Then he looked up. His voice cracked mid-sentence. Ariana?" He stumbled backward as if he'd seen a ghost. His face drained of color. I remained seated at the head of the long glass table, shoulders straight, hands folded. The picture of calm power. "Please," I said, "sit." He didn't move. What are you doing here?" "You work for the parent company." "I don't work for it," I replied softly. "I'm a director. Your promotion, your department budget, your future here, it runs through my office." His knees buckled as he collapsed into the nearest chair. "I didn't know," he whispered. "Ariana, I swear, I didn't know." "I know," I replied. "Life doesn't always warn us before it brings consequences." He swallowed hard, trembling. Then came the words I expected, but still felt surreal hearing. "Ariana, please.
I need this job."
Melanie is pregnant again. We can't survive without this promotion." My chest tightened, not with pity, but with the weight of justice finally arriving at my door. "Let's talk," I said. "From the beginning." Evan started talking fast, too fast, like a man drowning and grabbing any branch he could find. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that," he said, rubbing his palms together. "Melanie, she was crying that night. She said you were too busy with work. I was drunk. It was one mistake. One mistake that led to a wedding," I replied. He winced. "Her family pressured us. Mine too. Then she got pregnant again. I didn't want to marry her. I wanted you." I almost laughed. "Then why did you call off our engagement?" He looked down. "I thought you'd hate me less if I acted like I chose her. But her family threatened to expose everything if I didn't marry her. And that mattered more than honesty?" He didn't answer. Silence filled the room like smoke. He leaned forward, tears burning at his eyes. "Ariana, I'm miserable. We fight every day. I can't sleep. I can't breathe. And now this job, it's all I have left." For a moment, I saw flashes of the man I once loved, but only flashes. They disappeared quickly behind the image of the man who destroyed me, then left me to bleed alone. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because," he whispered, "you're the only person who ever cared about me." His words echoed painfully. But caring and saving are not the same. 2 days later, my assistant buzzed me. "Ma'am, someone is demanding to see you. She says she's family." Before I could respond, Melanie burst into my office. Her belly was round, her hair unkempt, her eyes swollen from crying. "Ariana, please," she sobbed, stumbling toward my desk. "Please don't fire Evan." I leaned back slowly, studying the girl who once smiled in my childhood photos, now standing in front of me as the architect of my deepest heartbreak. "I never said I would fire him," I replied calmly. "You don't have to," she screamed. "Just don't deny the promotion. We can't afford rent." "Evan said you hate us, but we're drowning, Ari."
Ari.
She still used the nickname she stole long before she stole my fiancé. "Melanie," I said, voice steady. "You didn't care about my drowning." Her sobs intensified. "I know," she screamed. "I know, okay? I made the worst mistake of my life. I thought Evan loved me. I thought you'd move on. I didn't know you'd end up with someone powerful. I didn't know you'd become this." Her eyes scanned my office. "The awards, the view, the authority. You won," she whispered. "Please don't destroy us." I stood, walked around my desk, and stopped right in front of her. "This isn't about winning," I said softly. "It's about accountability." She shook uncontrollably. The real twist, however, came seconds later, when Adrian walked into the office. And Melanie recognized him. Melanie froze as Adrian entered the room. Her jaw dropped. Her breathing hitched. She looked from him to me to him again. Why you? You're Adrian Cole, she whispered, voice cracking.
He nodded politely. Yes.
And you are? She swallowed hard. I'm Ariana's cousin. Adrian's expression shifted, subtle but powerful. He walked to my side, placed a gentle hand on my back, and kissed my cheek. Melanie's eyes widened with horror. You're together? She gasped. Ariana, you're dating the CEO? This CEO? Her panic filled the room like electricity. Adrian remained composed. Is there a problem? A problem? She cried. You own Evan's company. You control his entire career. Adrian's brows rose slightly, the face of a man who understood everything now. Melanie fell to her knees right in front of us. Actually fell. Please, she begged. Please don't ruin us. I swear I'm so sorry. I was stupid. I was selfish. But Evan needs this job. I can't take care of 2 kids alone. Her voice broke. I know I hurt you, Ariana. But I never thought life would put you above us. Adrian spoke before I could. Life didn't put Ariana above you, he said. She climbed there. You pushed her down, and she rose anyway. Melanie cried harder. And in that moment, I realized justice wasn't about punishing them. It was about them finally seeing who I had become. The next week, a high-level executive council meeting was scheduled to determine the future of several department heads, including Evan. 10 senior executives, 2 directors, 1 CEO, and me, sitting confidently among them. The room was sleek, modern, and intimidating. One wall was glass overlooking the skyline. The other was filled with digital screens showing performance metrics. Evan walked in with his supervisor. His eyes found mine instantly. Hope flickered, then dimmed, when he saw the cold professionalism in my face. Adrian sat at the head of the table. The room quieted as he spoke. We're here to evaluate the performance of key personnel. Let's begin. Charts displayed on the wall exposed everything. Declining output, missed deadlines, team complaints. Evan's supervisor tried to defend him, but numbers don't lie. He has potential, the supervisor insisted, but he lacks focus. And we can't afford unfocused leadership. Adrian turned to me. Director Grace, as the head of the Social Impact and Corporate Integrity Division, you've reviewed all personnel files. Your assessment. The room waited. This was the moment. Not revenge, but responsibility. I inhaled slowly and met Evan's eyes. Mr. Brooks is capable, I said. But capability doesn't replace accountability. Leadership requires emotional maturity, consistency, and honesty. Qualities he has not demonstrated. At this time, I cannot recommend him for promotion. Evan's face crumbled. Adrian nodded. Noted. The council moved on. But something deeper had shifted. The consequences had begun. After the council meeting, I returned to my office feeling strangely hollow. Not empowered. Not triumphant. Just quiet. Minutes later, my door burst open. Evan stormed in, eyes red, chest heaving. Ariana, please, he cried. You don't understand. This job is all I have left. He dropped to his knees, literally fell apart at my feet. I know I hurt you. I know what I did was unforgivable. But Mel and I were falling apart. She's pregnant again. We're behind on rent. I'm trying, Ari. I'm trying so hard. Please don't let them fire me. I stepped back, stunned by the desperation pouring out of him. You're not being fired, I said calmly.
He froze.
You're simply not being promoted. That's all. But without the promotion, we can't survive. I can't take care of a family on this salary. Ariana, I'm begging you. Tears streamed down his face. I made a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. I chose wrong. His voice collapsed. I chose wrong, he repeated, softer this time. I sat down across from him, not as a victim, not as a broken woman, but as someone who had outgrown the pain he caused. Evan, I said, your apology doesn't erase the consequences. He sobbed into his hands, and for the first time, I felt no bitterness, only closure. But fate wasn't done. Because the next person to walk into my life changed everything again. That evening, I arrived home emotionally drained. The day had taken more out of me than I expected. When I opened my apartment door, soft music played in the background. Candlelight flickered across the living room. And standing in the center was Adrian, holding a velvet box. My breath caught. Adrian, what is this? He walked toward me with a calm, steady confidence, the kind that softens storms. I saw the strength you carried today, he said. I saw the grace. And I realized something I should have said long ago. He opened the box. Inside was not a ring, but a key.
Gold.
Elegant. Engraved with my initials. This is the master key to my home, he said. Move in with me, Ariana. I don't want to just date you. I want to build life with you. A future. A home. My heart fluttered. Tears welled in my eyes. But then he took my hands, voice deepening. And, whenever you're ready, the ring will follow. Emotion crashed into me all at once. This wasn't a bandage for my past. This was the beginning of something real. Yes, I whispered. Yes, Adrian. I'll move in. He kissed me, slow, assuring, certain. Outside, the city lights shimmered. Inside, my life was being rewritten. But the universe had more to unfold. Because 2 days later, Melanie called me, and her voice was full of fear. Melanie called at 6 a.m. My phone vibrated violently across the nightstand. When I answered, her voice came out in panicked whispers. Ariana, please. I need your help. I sat up immediately. What happened? It's Evan, she choked. He left last night, packed a bag, and walked out. He said he can't handle the stress, that he's tired, that he doesn't want this life anymore. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. She continued, voice trembling. He said the only woman who ever truly loved him was you. A bitter echo twisted inside me. Mel, I said, I'm sorry you're going through this, but I can't be the solution to the problems you created. She cried harder. Ariana, I'm scared. I have one baby, and another on the way. I can't do this alone. I know I hurt you. I know it was evil. I know. But please, please don't watch me drown. Her sobs were raw, broken, soaked in regret. Ariana, you're the only one he still respects.
Please talk to him.
Please tell him to come home. He listens to you. I leaned back, overwhelmed by the cruel symmetry of life. She stole the man I was supposed to marry. Now she begged me to save her marriage. But I wasn't the same woman she betrayed. Melanie, I said quietly, some storms don't need rescuing. They need reflection. She sobbed until she had no voice left. I hung up, heart heavy but firm. Little did I know, Evan wasn't done with me either. That evening, as rain washed over the city, someone knocked on the door of Adrian's penthouse. When I opened it, Evan stood there soaked, shivering, and broken. Ariana, please, he whispered. Just 5 minutes. I hesitated, but something in his expression, raw, hollow, made me step aside. He entered quietly, eyes scanning the luxury around us before settling on the framed photo of me and Adrian on the piano. You really moved on, he said softly. I had to. He nodded, defeated. Then he sank onto the couch and covered his face. Melanie and I were never supposed to be together, he said. I didn't love her. I made a mistake, and everyone forced my hand. Her parents, mine, even yours. They all pushed for the wedding. I became a prisoner. You had a choice, Evan, I said. But I was a coward, he whispered. And I ruined your life in the process. He looked up, tears mixing with rainwater on his face. I'm not here for a promotion anymore, he continued. I'm not here for help. I just want you to know the truth. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. And I destroyed it. Silence. Then, if I could go back, I would choose you every time. The words floated in the room, heavy and useless, because they came too late. Behind me, I heard the soft footsteps of Adrian approaching. And everything, Adrian stepped into the living room with a composed expression that chilled the air. He looked at Evan, then at me, then back at Evan. "This conversation is over," Adrian said calmly. Evan stood quickly. "Sir, Mr. Cole, I wasn't trying to cause problems. I just needed to tell Ariana." "You don't speak to her directly," Adrian interrupted. "Not here. Not anymore." Evan swallowed hard. "I'm not trying to win her back.
I swear."
I just needed closure." Adrian stepped closer, not threatening, but commanding. "You had closure the day you left her for someone else." Evan's shoulders dropped. "You jeopardized her happiness once," Adrian continued. "You will not do it again." "I'm sorry," Evan whispered. "This isn't about apologies," Adrian said. "It's about boundaries." Then he placed a protective hand on my back. "Ariana is building a new life. You are not part of it." The words fell like steel. Evan looked at me with a sadness so deep it almost swallowed him. "Take care, Ariana," he whispered. "You deserved a better version of me in another lifetime." And without waiting for a reply, he walked out the door. When it closed, I leaned into Adrian, finally releasing the breath I had been holding. "Are you okay?" he whispered. I nodded slowly, because for the first time, my past was no longer chasing me. My future had already chosen me. But the final chapters, the most powerful justice, were still ahead. The boardroom at Manhattan Heights Tower felt colder than usual when Adrian ordered an emergency department review. Executives whispered nervously, sensing something big was coming. And it was. I sat beside Adrian, calm but alert, as the audit team projected a screen full of data, numbers, timelines, emails, and discrepancies. Then the bomb dropped. "Sir, all evidence points to one person being responsible for the financial leak. Evan Brooks." The room gasped. My pulse slowed. My revenge had never required my hands. The truth was revealing itself all on its own. Adrian turned to the board. "As of this moment, Evan is suspended pending final disciplinary action." A rustle spread through the room. My ex stood frozen, his face pale, his lips trembling. His eyes met mine, not with anger, not with shame, but with the devastating realization that karma had finally arrived. Melanie, who had insisted on accompanying him, covered her mouth with a shaking hand. The same cousin who once boasted about winning had now lost everything she fought for. And I didn't even have to lift a finger. The truth did the work for me. The poetic justice had begun. Security escorted Evan out of the boardroom as executives murmured behind their laptops. Serena stumbled after him, her voice cracking in panic. "Ariana, please. Don't let this happen. Please talk to your husband." Her desperation echoed through the marble hallway. I didn't respond. I simply walked past them, calm as a still ocean, power radiating from every step. Outside the building, Evan collapsed onto a bench, burying his face in his hands. "I'm going to lose everything," he whispered to Melanie. "Everything." Melanie cried beside him, mascara streaking down her face. "We should have never."
She stopped.
But the sentence hung heavy in the air. "Never betrayed me. Never mocked me. Never destroyed my engagement. Never assumed I would remain beneath them." A soft breeze swept across the plaza. And for the first time, I realized something profound. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel gloating. I didn't feel revenge-driven joy. I felt closure. Because the moment a person falls by the weight of their own choices, your heart learns peace. And my peace had finally arrived. That night, Adrian held my hands as we sat on our penthouse balcony overlooking Central Park. "Love, the board is asking if we should terminate Michael permanently," he said. "I want your voice included in the decision. You're directly connected to this." The streetlights flickered like stars beneath us. This was the final test of who I was now. "Adrian," I asked softly, "what happens if he's fired?" He exhaled. "He loses his clearance, his benefits, his pension. He'll probably face legal consequences." My heart tightened, not out of love, but out of moral consciousness. I thought about the years of betrayal, the humiliation, the manipulation. I thought about Melanie laughing behind my back, I thought about my 2-year engagement shattered without warning. But I also thought about growth, healing, and what justice really means. Finally, I spoke. I don't want him fired, but I don't want him untouched either. Let him stay, but demote him. Strip the privileges he abused. Make him rebuild from the ground up. Adrian smiled, a proud, gentle smile. You always choose honor. That's why you're my wife. My revenge wasn't petty. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't emotional. It was balanced.
Fair.
And unforgettable. 2 days later, I arrived at the headquarters lobby and saw them again. Evan stood up quickly when I approached. Melanie clutched his arm, eyes red from sleepless nights. Ariana, Michael whispered. Thank you for not letting them fire me. I heard it was your call. I nodded once. Not out of softness. Out of clarity. I didn't help you, I replied. I helped the innocent people in your department who didn't deserve to lose their livelihoods because of your mistakes. Melanie wiped her tears. We know we wronged you.
Deeply.
If we could go back. You can't, I said gently. But you can move forward. Learn from this. Take care of your son. Make your marriage work. Stop living like the world owes you something. Melanie's knees weakened as she whispered, I'm sorry. Evan's voice cracked. I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve what we did. And in that moment, I felt something lift off my chest. Forgiveness? Maybe not. But release. I didn't need their downfall. I didn't need revenge. I had already won. By rising. By healing. By becoming a woman they could never reach again. 3 weeks later, Adrian called a final meeting. The entire department, including Evan, gathered nervously as Adrian announced the new policy. All sensitive projects now require dual signatures. Mine and my wife's. Gasps filled the room. My ex swallowed hard. Melanie's eyes widened. They weren't just facing consequences. They were now permanently under the authority of the woman they once betrayed. But then came the final blow. Adrian placed a final document on the table, Evan reappointment letter with demotion terms. Ari, he said, handing me the pen, as co-signer. Every eye in the room turned to me. I walked forward, slow, confident, cinematic. I signed with elegant strokes. My name, the name they once mocked, now determined their future. Evan bowed his head. Melanie clutched her chest. Not in humiliation, not in bitterness, but in humility and gratitude. As the meeting ended, Adrian whispered, Love won you, power shaped you, but integrity crowned you. Because the greatest revenge is not destruction. It is living a life so elevated that the people who hurt you must rise just to greet your shadow. Life taught me something powerful. You don't have to chase revenge. You don't have to destroy the people who hurt you. Just rise. Rise so high that they cannot touch you. Rise so gracefully that they must look up just to whisper your name. My ex and my cousin thought they took everything from me, but they only removed the people who were blocking my destiny. And today, I sign the papers that determine their future. Not out of hatred, but out of strength, growth, and divine justice. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional, cinematic stories every week.